Bonjour tout le monde. Over the last 2 weeks, we've seen our women and men in uniform step up to the plate again and again. In seniors' homes, in northern communities, they're there for where we need them most. And because they respond to the call of duty without hesitation, whenever they're called upon, it can be easy to forget the toll this work can take. Members of the Canadian Armed Forces have always been there to do tough, dangerous jobs. So after a lifetime of service, far too many veterans live with chronic pain. Today, we are launching the Chronic Pain Centre of Excellence for Canadian veterans at McMaster University. This centre will focus on national research, training, and education to provide veterans with the support they deserve. No one, least of all those who have worn the maple leaf, should be without the care they need. Later today, I'll also be meeting with nurses here in Ottawa to thank them for their outstanding work. I know I speak for all Canadians when I say that we are incredibly grateful to the women and men who are keeping us safe right now. Nos hommes et nos femmes en uniforme ont toujours été là pour nous, et on doit être là pour eux aussi. Aujourd'hui, on inaugure le Centre d'excellence sur la douleur chronique pour les anciens combattants canadiens à l'Université McMaster. Ce centre sera axé sur la recherche, la formation et l'éducation à travers le pays pour offrir aux anciens combattants les services dont ils ont besoin. À tous ceux qui ont servi le Canada, merci. Tout le pays vous en est reconnaissant et on est là pour vous soutenir. Over the last 2 months, a lot of Canadians have faced very challenging situations and very difficult choices. Just take workers in the fisheries industry. You can't harvest lobster from inside your house. So that leaves you trying to figure out how to either cancel your operations. It's not an easy call to make. On top of that, prices and demand have gone down, putting financial pressure on fishers and their families. Taken together, this adds up to a really tough time. So I want you to know that we're listening, that your local MPs are making sure your concerns are heard, and above all, that help. Today, I can announce that we are investing almost $470 million to support fish harvesters. First of all, we are creating the Fish Harvesters Benefit. If you're expecting a 25% drop in income this season, you'll get support to cover 75% of your losses, up to about $10,000. And as a reminder, if you qualify for the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy instead, remember that we'll be extending it beyond June. We're also introducing additional non-repayable grants of up to $10,000 for fish harvesters who own their own business and need support to bridge to better times. And for workers who are worried about next year, we will change employment insurance rules so that fish harvesters can apply for EI benefits based on the earnings of previous years. This all builds on the investments we've made for fish and seafood processors. And for farmers and aquaculture fisheries, we're also launching a $100 million Agriculture and Food Business Solutions Fund through Farm Credit Canada. This is yet another option to help agri-food companies facing unexpected financial strain. Whether you're a fisher, a food processor, or a farmer, we've got your back. And I know all Canadians do too. And to everyone who wants to show their support, buy Canadian. Pick up some Canadian cheese to help out a local dairy farmer. Have a fish fry or buy Canadian lobster. Not only will it taste great, but it'll help the people who keep putting food on our plates. Plusieurs industries traversent des moments difficiles et celle de la pêche n'y s'échappe pas. Non seulement les gens doivent ralentir ou même arrêter leurs activités pour protéger leurs travailleurs, mais le prix et la demande des produits de la mer ont également chuté. C'est pourquoi on va instaurer la prestation aux pêcheurs. Si vous êtes un pêcheur qui attend une baisse de revenus de 25% cette saison, cette mesure sera là pour vous. On pourrait couvrir jusqu'à 75 de vos pertes, jusqu'à concurrence d'autour de 10 000 $. Et pour les gens qui sont admissibles à la subvention salariale d'urgence, on va prolonger le programme au-delà de juin, comme on l'a annoncé la semaine dernière. On va également offrir d'autres subventions non remboursables d'une valeur maximale de 10 000 $ pour les pêcheurs qui ont leur propre entreprise et qui ont besoin d'aide pour traverser cette période difficile. Et pour les travailleurs qui sont inquiets pour l'année à venir, on va aussi changer les règles d'assurance-emploi pour que les pêcheurs puissent demander des prestations d'assurance-emploi en fonction des revenus qu'ils ont gagnés dans les années précédentes. Vous nourrissez nos familles. On est à l'écoute de ce dont vous avez besoin pour traverser la crise. On est là pour vous. Je veux maintenant parler de ce qu'on fait pour soutenir les peuples autochtones qui font face à des difficultés particulières pendant la pandémie. On a accordé plus de 306 millions de dollars pour offrir des frais sans intérêt et des contributions non remboursables aux entreprises autochtones. Pour ce qui est des étudiants des Premières Nations et des étudiants inuits et métis, on accorde un soutien ciblé de plus de 75 millions de dollars, en plus d'aider les jeunes à trouver une job dans leur communauté cet été. Et pour les femmes et les enfants autochtones qui fuient la violence, on a investi 10 millions de dollars dans les refuges d'urgence. On a réalisé des progrès importants, mais on sait qu'il reste du travail à faire. Since day one, our government has been engaging with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis Nation leaders in the fight against this virus. In places like northern Saskatchewan that are dealing with COVID-19 outbreaks, it's become very clear that communities need this work to continue. That's why yesterday we announced support for the Meadow Lake Tribal Council and Métis Nation Saskatchewan for their pandemic response plan. Through this plan, we're partnering with communities to provide over $2.3 million for everything from food to supplies. We all want the same thing, to keep people safe, and we will continue coordinating to make sure that happens. I want to end today by recognizing that the May long weekend is coming up. It'll be different than normal because lots of places, including our national parks, are still closed. But this isn't forever. Canadians have been doing the right things these past many weeks, and that's why we can announce today some good news for the weeks ahead. As of the beginning of June, some national parks will be partially reopening so that people in the area can use trails and green spaces where physical distancing is possible. Getting fresh air is important, but we all have to be responsible about it. And we have to be prepared to make adjustments as needed. That's why, with the weather getting better, we're bringing in new regulations on boating as of June 1st to protect vulnerable communities in the north. No pleasure craft will be permitted to operate in Canada's Arctic coastal waters or in the coastal areas of northern Quebec and Labrador. Of course, this ban does not include boats used for essential fishing and hunting or for local community use. Les parcs nationaux vont rester fermés en fin de semaine, mais certains vont rouvrir le 1er juin. Vous allez pouvoir profiter des sentiers et des espaces verts en respectant les consignes de distanciation physique. Mais on doit rester prudent et on doit être prêt à s'adapter aux nouvelles circonstances. C'est pourquoi, à partir du 1er juin, les bateaux de plaisance ne pourront pas se rendre dans les eaux côtières de l'Arctique canadien ou dans les zones côtières du nord du Québec et du Labrador. C'est ce qu'on doit faire pour se protéger les uns les autres. Il faut se rappeler, par contre, que ce n'est pas pour toujours. Et si chacun fait sa part, on va passer à travers. Merci.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll now go to the phones for questions from the media. Just one question, one follow-up. Operator.
Thank you. Merci. First question, Janice Dixon, The Globe and Mail. Line open.
Hi, Prime Minister. My question is about the Canada-U.S. border. A Canadian and an expectant mother living here says border guards have twice refused her partner, an American citizen and the father of her baby, from crossing into the U.S., and the border guards told him being here for the birth of his son was non-essential. Do you think someone in this circumstance should be able to cross?
We know Canadians are making extraordinary sacrifices through this difficult time. Loved ones who are saying goodbye to their parents and grandparents via FaceTime because they can't see them in person. People living through very difficult distancing that is causing a real impact on people. Obviously, we're trying to make sure that people can do the things that are most essential. But even as we were grieving over the past week, we needed to make sure we were respecting the rules in place to keep people safe. I can understand the difficulty and the challenge that closing the borders to all but non-essential travel is causing on many, many families. We need to make sure that the decisions are taken that are going to protect people. I understand that different decisions could be made on a case-by-case basis, but what we are doing now is what we need to do to keep Canadians safe for the coming months and years.
A follow-up, Janice?
Yes, the American man I mentioned was told by an officer that the only way he could see his son is if his expecting partner was hit by a car and they needed someone to take care of the baby. Is there not any room for compassion in these cases? He wants to try again after his son is born. Do you have any advice?
So we've seen families split up even internally in Canada because of COVID-19. It is difficult on everyone, and I can't comment on every case, obviously. But I do know that Canadians from coast to coast to coast are making tremendous sacrifices in order to protect their loved ones, their communities, their parents, their grandparents, and preventing our healthcare systems from getting overloaded.
Thank you. Next question, operator.
Thank you. Merci. Next question, Jenny Pashagumskum, APTN. Line open.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. You mentioned something in French about Indigenous students and Indigenous women. I'm sorry I missed it. I was expecting a translation. Could you tell us what was said there?
We're making sure that students in First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities get extra support. We're also investing in support for families, women and children fleeing domestic violence in Indigenous communities. We've made a large number of investments in supporting Indigenous communities across this country through this pandemic because we recognize the level of vulnerability. And tell you that Minister Miller will be at the noon update, as he is every week, to highlight the initiatives we're moving forward on with Indigenous communities.
Follow-up, Jamie?
Yes. My follow-up is concerning the rapid tests that were supposed to be coming out a couple of weeks ago. I know Indigenous communities have tests, but they're not the rapid tests. What happened to that?
As was highlighted a number last week, I believe, there have been challenges around the rapid test that I believe an Ottawa company had put forward. They've gone back to try and improve them or repair them. We've seen many new technologies come forward in terms of helping. We've moved very quickly on them, but it also requires us to adjust when things aren't working exactly the way they were hoped to be working. So I know people are working very hard to make sure that Indigenous communities and indeed remote northern communities get the testing capacity they need as quickly as possible, but we need to make sure they are reliable tests.
Thank you. Operator, next question, please.
Thank you. Merci. Prochaine question, Catherine Lévesque, La Presse canadienne. À vous.
Oui, bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau. Je veux juste revenir sur la subvention salariale. Vous avez dit qu'elle serait prolongée après le mois de juin et que les détails suivront cette semaine. Pouvez-vous nous dire aujourd'hui jusqu'à quand elle sera prolongée?
On va avoir plus à dire demain, je crois, sur cet enjeu-là, mais on comprend que des entreprises à travers veulent cette certitude pour pouvoir réembaucher leurs travailleurs, pour savoir comment ils vont pouvoir fonctionner au fur et à mesure que l'économie rouvrira un petit peu. La subvention salariale est un outil extrêmement important pour garder ce lien entre employeurs et employés et ça va permettre une relance plus efficace et plus rapide pour tout le monde. Donc, oui, on va le prolonger et on va avoir plus de détails à partager très, très bientôt.
Suivi?
Oui, et qu'est-ce que vous dites aux Canadiens qui se demandent quoi faire de leurs vacances cet été? Devraient-ils rester au Canada? Si oui, devraient-ils pouvoir se déplacer d'une province à l'autre? Et est-ce que les États-Unis, c'est une option pour eux à ce stade-ci ou on oublie ça pour cet été?
Écoutez, on veut tous savoir qu'est-ce qui va se passer dans les semaines à venir, dans les mois à venir. Tout ce qu'on sait, c'est que maintenant, faire les bonnes choses pour garder les mesures de distanciation physique, rester chez eux le plus possible, c'est la façon qu'on va se protéger, qu'on va s'assurer qu'on pourra en sortir le plus rapidement possible. Les décisions que les familles vont prendre pour cet été dépendraient énormément de la région, de la province dans laquelle ils se trouvent, des règles qui vont être en place à partir du mois de juillet. On est encore un petit peu à l'avance pour pouvoir prédire de quoi ça va avoir de l'air, mais on sait que ce ne sera pas un été comme les autres. Ça va être une situation où les familles, les individus vont devoir prendre différentes décisions que ce qu'ils avaient prévu il y a 6 mois.
Merci. Prochaine question, operator.
Thank you. Merci. Prochaine question, Louis-Samuel Perron, La Presse. À vous.
Oui, bonjour, M. Trudeau. Alors que la pandémie se concentre à Montréal, est-ce que les parcs nationaux au Québec vont rouvrir le 1er juin et quels seront les critères pour rouvrir ces parcs?
Parce qu'on voit évidemment qu'à travers le pays, la situation est différente. Nous allons jumeler les actions des parcs fédéraux avec les parcs provinciaux. Nous allons regarder quelles seront les décisions prises par les régions dans lesquelles ils se trouvent. Par exemple, les parcs dans le Grand Nord et des parcs qui sont très proches des communautés autochtones, il y a très peu de chances qu'ils ouvrent dès le 1er juin, mais d'autres qui vont être plus accessibles et moins problématiques pourraient ouvrir. On va avoir plus à dire dans les semaines à venir sur exactement quels parcs vont rouvrir, mais notre objectif, ça va être de s'aligner avec les décisions prises par les autorités locales pour les parcs provinciaux et nationaux. Okay. We know that this pandemic has hit very differently across the country, and therefore there will be different phases or different steps in reopening of national parks across the country. We will try and align with the local jurisdiction what the provincial parks nearby are going to be doing so that it is clearer for people in terms of what they can do in their own particular region. But for example, our Arctic parks won't be reopening anytime soon. Certain parks that are in close proximity to Indigenous communities will take a little longer to open because of vulnerabilities. We will have more to say in the coming week in terms of which parks will be opening up. But we know people are going to want to get outside. They're going to want to do that safely. So as of June 1st, we will be facilitating that to a certain extent, always staying careful and responsible in the way we do it.
Un suivi?
Oui, M. Trudeau, on apprend ce matin dans le National Post qu'Emploi et Développement social Canada demande aux fonctionnaires d'approuver les demandes de PCU, même si la personne a démissionné ou a été congédiée. Pourquoi acceptez-vous d'aider ces personnes alors que bien des Canadiens qui n'ont pas choisi de perdre leur emploi ont de la misère à joindre les deux bouts?
Les gens se souviennent bien des chiffres d'emploi qu'on a vus la semaine passée. Des millions de Canadiens ont perdu leurs emplois dans les derniers mois. Nous avons fait le choix en tant que gouvernement de les aider et de les aider rapidement. C'est ce qu'il fallait faire. Si on avait instauré un système qui exigeait une vérification complète du dossier de chaque personne qui demandait, il y aurait des millions de personnes qui attendraient encore de recevoir la prestation canadienne d'urgence. On sait que 99% des Canadiens qui font des demandes pour ces programmes-là en ont réellement besoin. Et ce n'est pas à cause du 1% de fraudeurs qu'on va ralentir ou empêcher des millions de Canadiens de recevoir l'aide dont ils ont si besoin. On a mis en place des mesures pour contrer la fraude et on va s'assurer que ça se fait dans les mois à venir. Mais la priorité, c'était d'aider les Canadiens qui en avaient besoin et c'est exactement ce qu'on a fait. Remember well the job numbers that came out just last week that showed that millions of Canadians have lost their jobs. We made the choice as a government from the very beginning that we would help those millions of Canadians. And getting that help to 99% of the Canadians who needed it quickly and rapidly, if it meant even accepting that 1 or 2% might make fraudulent claims, was the choice that we gladly made. We needed to get help to Canadians immediately, and that's what we did. If we had asked the public service to perform background checks on everyone applying for the CERB, we'd still be waiting to get those checks out. And people needed that money. Now they needed that money last month when we delivered it. So saying, we have put in strong measures to ensure that anyone who is trying to defraud the system will get caught and there will be consequences. But that was not our priority. Our priority was helping people immediately, and the fraud measures will kick in the coming months.
Kevin Gallagher with CTV News. Could you expand on what those measures or mechanisms are? And also you said yesterday the CRA would be responsible for a lot of that with the CERB. They're also responsible for the wage subsidy. So is the CRA going to need more resources to tackle the potential fraud that has come from these vital federal programs during this pandemic?
Well over 7 million Canadians have applied for the CERB. Millions of Canadians are receiving the CERB. Millions of Canadians have lost their jobs. We needed to help them rapidly and efficiently. That means to get the CERB, people simply needed to fill out an attestation to make commitments that they were in a situation that they deserve to get the CERB. Of course, there's going to be a few people who will misrepresent themselves and try and defraud the situation. Defraud the situation. But we know that the priority was getting help to people who needed it. And that's exactly what we did, including by increasing the capacity of the federal government to deliver these checks and support CRA and other government workers. The choice we made was to get the money out to people immediately when they needed it so we could do the social distanciation, so we could stay home in the way we needed to, and make sure that the fraudsters get caught as we move forward.
It didn't really answer if there was going to be more resources for the CRA to do this. I'm also wondering, as provinces start to reopen their economies, non-essential businesses start to open up, there are likely to be workers that are concerned about returning to work for their own safety. Either they're immunosuppressed, they have difficulty finding adequate childcare options, or perhaps they're unsatisfied with their workplace safety protocols because of the coronavirus. Will those workers have an option to remain on the CERB, for example, or other federal programs? What will happen to workers that have concerns over their safety, but now might have to go back to work?
On the first part of your question, the measures we've put in have required the public service across this country to step up in extraordinary ways. And we're making sure that they get the support they need as they deliver in a rapid way, in a reliable way, the support that millions upon millions of Canadians are needing, and we need to thank them for the work they're doing. And of course, we will always make sure that they have the resources necessary to do the things that Canadians need them to do and do them as incredibly well as they have been. As the economy begins to reopen, as people start looking at going back to work, there are going to be lots of questions about safety, about childcare, about next steps. And we're going to work very closely with the provinces, with industries, with employers, with people to give as much clarity as we possibly can. We're in an unprecedented situation. We're figuring this out step by step as we move forward, as we get into the next phases of this. But every step of the way, our focus is going to be on keeping people safe first and foremost. That needs to be the priority that all Canadians put at the top of the list.
En français, s'il vous plaît, sur la sécurité des travailleurs.
Et, au fil des semaines à venir, il va y avoir énormément de questions sur comment on peut commencer à rouvrir l'économie, comment les gens peuvent retourner au travail, qu'est-ce qui va se passer pour les garderies, qu'est-ce qui va se passer pour des enjeux préoccupants individuels. Nous allons travailler très fort ensemble pour trouver des réponses à ces questions-là. On est dans une situation sans précédent. Il n'y a pas de réponse facile, mais nous allons collaborer comme on le fait avec les provinces, écouter les Canadiens dans leurs préoccupations et trouver la meilleure façon de garder et d'assurer la sécurité des Canadiens tout en regardant une reprise économique tranquille, graduelle et en restant vigilant.
Bonjour, M. Trudeau. Mathieu Goyer de Radio-Canada. On voit que la subvention salariale, elle est beaucoup moins utilisée par les employeurs que ce qui était prévu. C'est clair, on voit que la PCU semble nuire à la subvention salariale. Est-ce qu'il n'est pas temps de mettre fin à la PCU plus rapidement que prévu?
Nous voyons qu'il y a des millions de gens qui ont carrément perdu leur emploi, qui ne pourraient pas accéder à la subvention salariale. Et donc, la PCU a un rôle très important à jouer. Mais comme nous avions dit, en étendant la durée, la portée de la subvention salariale, on espère que de plus en plus d'employés vont réembaucher leurs travailleurs, vont se préparer pour la reprise économique qui va venir, qui doit venir. Nous savons que de garder un lien direct entre employés et employeurs est une des meilleures façons à s'assurer une reprise qui sera rapide et efficace.
Encore sur la PCU, est-ce qu'on ne pourrait pas la modéliser un peu plus de 1 000 $, mais quand même toucher une portion de la PCU? Ce ne serait pas une meilleure option pour encourager les gens à aller travailler?
Des questions comme ça sont absolument ce qu'on est en train de regarder. Toute cette question de comment on va rouvrir l'économie, comment on va passer d'un mode où les gens sont chez eux et se protègent vers sortir, travailler un peu plus, reprendre l'économie, trouver comment on va modifier ou terminer certains programmes en étendant d'autres. C'est toutes les questions qu'on est en train de regarder. Pour l'instant, on est encore dans le mode d'urgence. On est encore en train de soutenir les gens pour pouvoir rester chez eux, pour pouvoir contrôler la croissance du virus. Et au fur et à mesure qu'on s'approche des prochaines étapes, on va effectivement modifier les programmes, mais de quelle façon reste à voir. Pour l'instant, on a annoncé qu'on étend la subvention salariale parce que ça va être clé à garder les gens au travail.
Prime Minister Janet Silver, Global News. I just want to pick up on talking earlier about workers and safety. More than 40 inspectors with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency are getting sick going to work in meat packing plants. I'm just wondering what the federal government is doing to protect these inspectors.
No, we know the situation is extremely difficult in many meat packing plants across the country. That has been a real challenge, and we always are trying to find that balance between assuring a safe and reliable food supply for Canadians, which is fundamental and necessary, while at the same time ensuring the protection of the workers who are there. That obviously includes the food inspectors, and we need to make sure that they have access to the right kinds of personal equipment, protection equipment, and the right conditions to keep them safe. As important as it is to keep our economy going and get food on the table, we also need to make sure we are prioritizing worker safety.
The union, just to follow up on that, the union representing these meat inspectors, they say that they've been giving a work or else order from the agency, and if they refuse to go to work, they will be disciplined. So I'm just wondering why they're being ordered to go to work if they don't feel safe.
I think getting that balance right is extremely important. We need to ensure that essential services like the food supply continue to flow to Canadians, but we need to make sure we're doing everything we can to keep workers safe, and we will continue to work with Labour, with industry, with provincial partners to make sure that both of those things are being done. Okay. Nous savons que de continuer à assurer la chaîne alimentaire, à assurer l'alimentation sécuritaire pour les Canadiens est essentiel, mais c'est aussi essentiel d'assurer la sécurité de tous les travailleurs. Nous allons donc continuer de travailler avec les syndicats, avec les employeurs, avec les provinces, pour faire tout ce qu'on peut à travers le pays pour s'assurer que tout le monde travaille dans des conditions sécuritaires.
Hello, Prime Minister. Tom Perry, CBC. The WHO's emergencies chief, Dr. Michael Ryan, he was quoted today saying that this virus may never go away, that it could become just another endemic virus in our community. So I want to know, as a government, how do you plan for that kind of scenario? And you're loosening up some restrictions on national parks today. What do you say to Canadians who might hear this and think, well, things are never going to get back to normal?
I think we know that there are things that we took for granted last year and years before that have changed. We have seen this world change rapidly over the years. You used to be able to get on a plane without taking off your shoes first. I mean, we have seen measures brought in that have made shifts in our society, some for the better, some for the worse. COVID-19 will be one of those things that creates changes in our society. Our responsibility as a society, as governments, is to try and figure out how to minimize the negative impacts of those changes while maximizing the safety of Canadians. There will be adjustments, but reopening national parks, for example, on June 1st, you can't prevent Canadians from going outside when the weather is nice. You just have to help them do it safely. Continue to impress upon them the need for physical distancing, recognize that certain areas are more vulnerable than others and will need to remain closed, but create opportunities for Canadians' well-being, for their mental health, while at the same time protecting their physical health. Getting that balance right is something we're doing in the short term, but obviously there'll be plenty of reflections over the coming months and indeed years about how we make sure that Canadians and people around the world are kept safe from this pandemic or from potential next pandemics. Nous devons reconnaître qu'il y a des choses qui vont changer dans notre monde, mais même après la fin de cette pandémie, même après un vaccin, on a appris des leçons qui vont amener des modifications dans nos comportements, dans notre façon de fonctionner en tant que société, en tant que planète. En tant que société, en tant que gouvernement, c'est de minimiser ces dérangements tout en maximisant la protection et la sécurité des citoyens. Ça va être un équilibre qu'on cherchera toujours à avoir. Par rapport aux parcs, par exemple, parcs nationaux, on va pouvoir en ouvrir plusieurs le 1er juin. Mais on va encourager les gens de continuer les mesures de distanciation physique. Mais on reconnaît que, par exemple, de sortir dehors, de prendre un peu d'air, de découvrir le plein air, c'est important pour le bien-être des Canadiens. Mais on va assurer d'amener des façons de le faire plus en sécurité pour ne pas mettre des gens vulnérables plus à risque. C'est sûr qu'on va avoir des réflexions sur comment on va devoir se comporter dans les mois, dans les années à venir, qu'on trouve un vaccin ou non. Mais pour l'instant, on prend les meilleures décisions qu'on peut pour assurer la meilleure qualité de vie et la meilleure sécurité des Canadiens en même temps.
And you've announced support for First Nations in their fight against COVID-19 today. I'd like to ask you about something that happened on Sunday in Saskatchewan. A First Nation there says that the RCMP interrupted an important ceremony over concerns about physical distancing. Premier Scott Moe says there can be no exceptions to the province's rules about public gatherings. What do you say?
I think Indigenous community leadership knows that we need to be keeping people safe, and we should be able to work with them to develop ways of continuing with important customs and practices for them in a way that abides by health recommendations. I think that's something for the leadership of the community to take on, and we, of course, will be happy to work with them. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.